Daddy gets lost. Daddy gets lost. Daddy gets lost. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me today to chat man stuff are Ryan and Maddie. Gents, how are you both?
Doing well here, mate. Doing well. On a little bit of a staycation tonight at Crown in Melbourne. So sort of celebrating the end of a few things and the fact that me and TK haven't seen each other much. So having a very nice time.
Well, today's Daddy Eats Last is brought to you by Crown Resorts, and we'll be having all our future events at Crown Resorts as paid for by Crown. Matthew, how are you going?
Good, thanks, Kane. Good. We had a pretty full-on weekend, so just easing into work for tomorrow morning. We had Christmas trees set up yesterday, followed by my oldest daughter's end-of-year dance recital. So that was quite nice to see. It was all kept under wraps until yesterday, so that was nice. Big family dinner, and then today we just did some jobs around the house, then off to the pool for a bit of a family swim. So it's nice and hot up here at the moment. So yeah, pretty good weekend.
Lovely. So what did your daughter dance to, Matthew? What song?
So two numbers. First one was "It's a Hard Knock Life" from the musical Annie.
Mm.
Second was from the Lion King, Hakuna Matata. So
Well, there you go.
yeah,
Very
pretty
good one.
cute. Yeah,
Classics.
absolute classics.
Now, gents, what I wanted to talk about tonight is sleep. And I've been reading a sleep report, actually, 2016 sleep survey of Australian adults. And I was just reading the summary of it. And basically, a quarter of all adults use internet most or every evening of the week just before bed and have sleep difficulties. But more importantly, the average reported sleep time is only 7 hours. And 12% of people actually sleep less than 5.5 hours. So there's a bit of sleep deprivation and a sleep debt out there that a lot of Australians and a lot of adults and especially young adults are sort of wrangling with out there. Ryan, you're having a staycation at a hotel. I've never been able to sleep at a hotel at all. In any hotel beds, I sleep really poorly. Do you find that? You are obviously you do travel a lot, and you're obviously there tonight. How do you think you'll sleep?
I actually think I'll sleep great. So I'm probably the reverse to you. I actually can sleep very well when I'm sort of out of, I guess, our place. And it's because it's a little, so it's a little, one of the reasons we are having a staycation is because we've probably racked up the sleep debt a fair bit the last few weeks. And I think we'll end up just getting a really nice one tonight. So yeah, very different to you by the sound of it.
Yeah, I've never found sleeping in a hotel. I'm not sure if it's the air conditioning or proximity to lifts or what it is. I think it is sort of the constant air flowing through, which I have a problem with being either too hot or too cold, or that air really kind of playing havoc with the sinuses. So I've never had great experience sleeping in hotels when I've had to do it. But I'm glad you and TK will have a delightful night's sleep this evening.
Hopefully.
Well, Matthew, you're up in Queensland and you don't have daylight savings. So what does that look like for you at the moment? I'd imagine everything's bright.
Things are very bright up here in Queensland. So yeah, we don't have daylight savings up here. So the day generally kicks off up here about 4:45, I think, is the sunrise, which that's the peak. So it doesn't get any earlier than that, 4:45. I've checked that out on the old date and time app. But then our sunset is about 6:35. So we don't have what you guys have, unfortunately. But yeah, 4:45, birds are chirp their loudest, and the day pretty much starts then. So little Sammy's up around pretty much the same time as the birds. I think they must wake him up, which means our family is pretty much starting to get up from there. So that, with the fact that he's waking up, midnight or 2 a.m., then you got the 4:45 wake up. Sleep at the moment is pretty scarce. But we try and combat that by either going to bed a bit earlier, or if one morning Kim might get up a bit earlier and wake up with Sam, or we'll take that in turns. I'll try the house when I can in the mornings with him. About 30, go for a lap around the block just to let everybody else in the house sleep a little bit longer. And surprisingly, there's a lot of people out at 5:30 in the morning up here. The sun's nice and high in the sky by then, so I think a lot of people are taking advantage of the sun being up so early. At first, when I moved up here, I absolutely hated it. I couldn't understand what was going on coming up from Melbourne. But slowly over time, I've learned to embrace it and use it to the advantage.
So what sort of hours do you sleep up there at the moment then? If you're getting up at 4:45 or close enough to it each morning, what time do you go to bed, and what does that translate to with regards to sleep in total for a night?
Yeah, so I mean, with the 4:45, I'm not bouncing out of bed at 4:45. I mean, Sam will wake up and
I
he's
don't
in
think
the room
anyone
next
bounces
to
out of the
us.
bed at 4:45.
Oh no.
No, they don't. Yeah, so I might be awake at 4:45 and slowly get up by 5:15. But in terms of going to bed at night time, probably in between maybe 10 and 12. And that's only because the girls sort of have their pattern or their routine, sorry, of going to bed about 6:30. They read till about 7, then lights out. Sammy's a bit earlier than that. He's about 5:30. But by the time, I might go for a run at 7 and then come back, have some dinner, do some dishes. It's sort of like 9 o'clock before everything's been done. And I don't really want to just, dishes, then sort of bed. I want a couple of hours to myself to do a few things. So that's why I try and stay up a little bit later. And over time, I've just learned to deal with it. I don't sort of mind getting up early, and, I seem to be able to last okay during the day. But yeah, I think, it's just how it is with having kids, I think.
Yeah, I guess my routine's changed completely since I've had kids. I used to go to bed any time between sort of 10 and at midnight, sometimes a bit later, and be up at 6 or 7 in the morning. So now with having a child who generally goes to bed at 7 and wakes up at around 7, or will be in bed for that amount of time, although the last couple of nights we have had to pretty much, wrestle him to bed. I think he might be going through a bit of a sleep regression at the moment. Yeah, I'm in bed most nights by sort of 10 o'clock, and my better half she goes to bed usually earlier than me or around the same time, and she's prompting me, hey, it's bedtime, it's bedtime, it's bedtime, turn off your computer, it's bedtime, it's bedtime, it's bedtime. So yeah, I've kind of been shaped a little bit by my spouse with regards to that. Otherwise I'd be a night owl and an early bird all in one. Yeah, at the same time, during the day I might be grumpy because I've been not getting enough sleep, but often you can't tell that if you're the person who hasn't enough sleep.
What's the average out there? That's the expected average for a healthy night's sleep.
They do say about 7 to 8 hours is sort of what I mean, people say the magic one's 8, but you should aim for. I've seen studies that say sort of 6.5 to 7.5, 7.5 to 8.5. That you definitely need 8, but I think the general consensus is a good 7 to 8 is ideal. But there is a lot out there that is person to person. So some people, they have found absolutely just function off 6 and they're very lucky. And other people, they're literally, if they get 8 hours sleep, they will be super grumpy because they just need more. So I think as a broad average, 7 to 8, but really it is a bit of different person to person, I guess.
So just on that, Ryan, what sort of hours do you go to bed and wake up? Weekends obviously probably a little bit different, but during the week, on a typical work week, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, I guess around between that 10 to midnight as well. A little bit like yourself, Kane. I'm influenced a bit by my partner. She'll generally go to bed a bit earlier than me, and we'll be definitely at about 10. It's sort of like shut everything down, start to wind down. So most nights I'd say 10:30, read for a little bit, definitely in bed by 11, and then up. Aim to sort of be up between the 5:30 to sort of 6 mark. So I'd say that would be most nights. Sundays are basically a sleep in if we get that, but every other day sort of around that 7 o'clock-ish for Saturdays, I guess. But we don't have kids, so I'm sure that'll change when we do.
For you, Matt, TK, my better half, both probably need a little bit more sleep than us. Does your wife need a bit more sleep than you? It seems to be that everything I seem to come across is females generally need a little bit more sleep than the guys out there. Is that the same for you?
Absolutely, it is. Kimmy generally is asleep by about 9:30, sometimes even 8:30. I think because her day just must be a lot more mind draining than mine. So by the end of it, she's absolutely wrecked. So she does drift off a little bit earlier. And I sort of, when I notice her drifting off, I'll say, come on, time to go to bed. And I'll set the bed up ready for her to go, and I'll just come back out and do what I want to do. But yeah, she's a lot earlier than I am. Is there any truth in the notion of the more sleep you have before midnight, the better? Has anybody read that or heard of anything about that?
I have heard a little bit about that. I've done a lot of research previously, especially when we had the little fella around sleep and the different types of sleep and the timing of sleep. The most important sleep is what they call REM sleep, which is your deepest sleep, and that will traditionally happen more before midnight, and also is more likely to happen when you haven't been drinking or doing anything else like that. So, yeah, there is a bit of truth to that, but the most important thing is to get that solid routine-based sleep, and for it to be ideally around a 50% split of deep sleep versus the lighter non-REM sort of sleep. And you can tell often when you've had a bad night's sleep, it'd be sort of a lot of light sleeping. So you can feel tired the next day despite being in bed for sort of 8 or 9 hours, just on the basis of the fact that the sleep you've been getting has been that lower sleep rather than that sort of deeper sleep.
Yeah, it's definitely right. There's a lot, it's not just about the duration, it's about the quality. So a lot of stuff that we see in the health space is around that, if you are having 6 hours of sleep, but it's exceptional quality, that's usually actually going to be better for you than 9 hours of tossing and turning. And especially with one of the things that I'm seeing anyway, and it's because we are wired to technology and because of increased stresses and constantly able to be contacted, a lot of people can't switch off. So it's not necessarily that a lot of people are losing hours in the sleep, because as you said, Kane, in the first stats, there's a lot of people that get the 7 hours, but there's a lot of tossing and turning and quality being affected by the sleep. So I think it's a big thing, is trying to be able to just get that. But back to your point, Matt, I think it comes down to, because I read a little bit about that as well, I think it comes down to before midnight is around sort of the thing of back in the days when, when it was dark, we'd go to sleep, and because we didn't have light as cavemen or whatnot, and then when it was light. So there's, if you sort of push yourself too much towards the midnight or just after midnight, the quality can be missing a bit. But then some people are just pure night owls.
Now, Ryan, you are a journaler and you take note of a lot of different stuff. Do you track your sleep?
I used to do a lot more. So I used to use an app that I can't remember what it was called, but that sort of tracked quality and quantity. And I do definitely track it in terms of duration, but I've actually been pretty good for the last probably year or so. So I've gotten a bit lazy with tracking it, I guess. But I mean, that's probably a good thing. That being said, if I am restless or I just cannot go to sleep, there is a journal beside my bedside table to remind me that rather than fighting this for the next 60 minutes, maybe get up and just write some stuff for 5 minutes. And usually that will help go to bed pretty quick.
Okay, and on that, previously tracking sleep, do you have a sleep routine that you kind of follow to switch off and ideally get to sleep, I guess, within a reasonable time of actually going to bed?
Yeah, although I have broken it this week because I just had to do one night that was very long. But besides that, generally it's off the computers by 9:30, off the TV by 9:30, 10. But I will most nights read, which I find helps quite a bit. So I sort of read 15 to 30 minutes, and then after that it's pretty good. If it's been particularly stressful, then definitely jotting some things down, sort of part of that routine as well.
Do you fall asleep reading, Ryan, or do you get through your 15, 30 minutes, close the book, and then off your drift? Because any time I, plan to do that, to sit down and read, 3 or 4 pages in, and my eyes are just closing.
Sometimes when I'm really tired, like it'll be 5 minutes, and I'll be 3 to 5 minutes, but I think it's just that process of having read even 3 pages, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm just tired and I'm crashing out now. But I don't think I've ever fallen asleep with a book open or done the whole movie thing where you're sort of drooling on the book or anything like that yet.
Matthew, what about you? Do you have anything outside of reading a book which seems to put you straight to sleep? Do you have anything which you routine-wise which helps you get to sleep?
Not really, no. I'd like to say that I did have a routine, but generally I'll either fall asleep on the couch with the laptop and TV on, or I'll just shut everything down. And I tend to go to sleep quite easily. I don't need a wind down as such to fall asleep. But I generally try not to have the blue light going in the dark when I'm in bed, only because that's sort of, if I do that, then I do find I do stay awake a lot. So I try to avoid that. And it's funny, just going on the technology you mentioned before, there's I constantly see on Facebook a person I know complaining at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. that they can't get to sleep on Facebook. Do you wonder why? You're sitting on Facebook posting. Maybe get off your phone.
Well, that's a good thing about technology now, though. Technology, when I say it's a good thing about technology, at least technology now understands that blue light thing and the different filters you can put in place, which will help you sleep. Like on all my devices at 8, I think it's 7 or 8 p.m., it will switch. So when I'm on my desktop, I've got a little program called Flux, which is F.lux. So if I'm on a computer past sort of 8 o'clock, the screen will automatically adjust and take the blue light out. So it switches to night mode. Same on the phones, they're automatically switched at sort of 7 or 8 o'clock to go to night mode and just take the colors out, which really stimulate me before bed. So even if I'm doing things before bed, and usually I am, to be honest, it's that light which will generally keep me up is being taken out a couple of hours before I go to sleep. And then I've tried different bits and pieces before going to bed, like having apple cider vinegar with honey, and that seemed to put me to sleep really well. And just doing a little meditation before bed if I'm really wound up. I do that every night anyway. And that's really helped me kind of consistently go to sleep within sort of 5 or 10 minutes of actually going to bed. So
Did you have to set that up on your phone, or is it something that the phone automatically does these days?
yeah, no, I have an iPhone. So you literally just scrape it up and there's, I think there's a little moon symbol, and the moon symbol will turn on and turn off that. But yeah, you can actually set it up to come on at specific times. So I have done that manually, and it's a pretty easy Google search to pick that up. It'd be the same if you're on an Android device, I'd imagine. But yeah, really easy. It took about a minute and a half to do, and then it does it automatically each night, and then switches it back at 8 a.m. each morning, back to the normal sort of mode. I also go between having colors and just black and white. Again, if you've got an iPhone, you can click the home screen 3 times and it will turn your screen black and white, and you can set it up to do that. So I also have my screen on black and white for large parts of the day, which helps with sleep and also helps stop the dopamine hit of social media as well. So that's a little tip. If your screen's in black and white, all those pretty pictures that people post on Instagram and Twitter kind of mean nothing to you.
Yeah, I was going to say I have heard that, and I've done that myself as well, that it helps with the social media addiction. But going back to I guess practices before sleep, and this is well before sleep. But one thing that I did do when I noticed that I wasn't sleeping too well is I sort of put a rule of no caffeine after 2 p.m. and that I find actually helps sleep a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, no, caffeine's obviously, one of the things you should definitely avoid drinking, and 2 p.m. is probably a good cutoff point as well. Now, Matthew, 3 kids in, Sammy, you're a dab old hand at this sort of stuff. How do you deal with a kid who's up at all hours? Do you sleep when baby sleeps, as they say? How does it work? What do you do?
Yeah, very good question, Kane. Ryan, take some notes. Look, I think by the third, you're used to it. The first was a wake-up call.
Yep.
You go from being right to literally having no sleep. We've never really slept when the baby slept. We've sort of just tried to capitalize on the baby sleeping, so we'll run around and do a few things, which is, we probably pay for it at night time by falling asleep early. But I think they go through patterns, and they'll sleep through the night, then they'll stop sleeping through the night, and the teeth will kick in, and then it's such a as you know, Kane, for the first 3 or 4 years, it's just such a yo-yo up and down. You can't really expect to just ever have a great night's sleep, I think. But yeah, and I mean, Sam has been sleeping most of the night, but over the last few days he's been needing to go to bed earlier, which means his wake up time for a bottle sort of changes, which means our sleep routine changes as well. The other 2 girls are okay at the moment. The middle one's sort of waking up about 10 o'clock or maybe 12, and then wanting to come into bed with us, but we're able to convince her we'll just go and lay with her and then sneak out, which is good. I don't know, can you ever really have a good sleep when you have kids? Maybe not until they're 6, 7, I think. What about you, Kane? Is your little fella sleeping all the way through, or is he sort of waking up at night time? Or
He's generally good once we get him into bed, and up until sort of 2 or 3 nights ago, he'd been great. Like, you could literally just walk in there. Anyone could walk in there at 7 o'clock, do the little routine, put him to bed, and he'd stay in there. The last 2 nights, we pretty much have to wrestle him into bed and to keep him into bed. I don't know what's changed in the last 2 days, or if he saw something in a book that he was reading, but he's changed in the last 2 nights. We basically had to wrestle him to get into bed, where previously be pretty much just pop him in and then you wouldn't see him for 12 hours. So I think we're going through a little change at the moment. That said, he's still probably going to lay in bed until 7, so it's a normal sleep for us. The issue which we had, obviously, and most new parents will have, is that initial phase when feeding, times during the night, nappies, and those sort of things, that you end up with segments of 2 or 3 or maybe 4 hours if you're really lucky of sleep. So you might have 3 segments of 2 or 3 hours, or if you have a really bad night, 3 or 4 segments of 1 hour worth of sleep. So it's really important to try to make the most of those moments of sleep and make that the deepest sleep you possibly can. That's what I was finding for us is you just grab what sleep you could and try to make it the best quality sleep that you could, and you might be able to get by on that for longer than you otherwise would.
Yeah, we're having this same thing, a similar thing. When we were first trying to switch Sam across the bottles, he's got a bit of a intolerance to protein or dairy. So to find the right formula took a while, and just the nighttime feeds are such a nightmare. It was 2 hours sleep here, an hour sleep there. It was actually a joy to go to work and just rest for 8 hours on the deck. But since we've got him on the right formula, he's kicking goals, and whilst he does wake up a bit here and there throughout the night, it's half the course really.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So with kids, so I've just had a buddy of mine. He's literally just had a daughter a week or two ago. I caught up with him briefly for lunch, and he was saying that at that age and at that age, they've got to wake up every sort of 2 hours for a feed at night or something like that. How long does that go for? Is that something that is true, or like, I mean, this is things that people don't tell you until you have kids, obviously. So, but I just heard, and I was like, so I just thought it was sort of like, the kids will wake up screaming and that kind of thing. And he's like, no, we have to clockwork feeds at night for the kids. So we actually have to wake up to do that, which obviously is going to mean that you're definitely not going to get a full 7 hours sleep.
I was surprised that your mate got to have lunch with you 2 weeks in. Far out. I think 2 weeks in, I'd barely had a shower.
It was a grilled burger, so it was quick. It was a 15-20 minute. Hey, how you doing, buddy? His mother-in-law is over, so she's over for a couple of weeks. So he's got a little bit of reprieve there, I think.
He's got to chop out. But no, it is one of those things where it is. You have to set the time basically to get up every couple of hours and feed them, and inevitably they'll need some kind of nappy change. That's the easiest time to transport a kid is when they're that young, because they just really don't do much. All you have to do is keep them fed and keep them dry, and they're generally pretty happy. But yeah, it is a 2 or 3 hours sort of thing. It's like a footballer doing rehab on an ankle the week before a grand final or something like that. They're up to ice their ankle every sort of couple of hours. No different to a kid. You just set the clock and have to get up.
Up at 3 a.m. There you go. Back up at 5. So that's something to look forward to. Can't wait.
They would have been the same for you, wouldn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, it was the same for us. In terms of how long it lasted, maybe a month, a couple of months, Kate, maybe? Yeah,
but then it changes. You're still up during the middle of the night, but it's a different sort of format. It might not be as frequent, but you're definitely up still during the night.
And keep in mind for that, for the duration that you're feeding them, you've got to stay awake. They might be dream feeding on you, but you've got to stay awake when that would be anywhere from half an hour to an hour, and then you're back up again in a hour and a half. So it's pretty taxing time on both yourself and the partner.
Yeah, you do end up walking around a bit like a zombie for the first sort of 6 months, because that sleep deprivation is real, and sleep deprivation makes people do just weird stuff. So yeah, that's something to be mindful of, just trying to get as much sleep as you can. And if it is sleep when the baby sleeps, a sleep mask is a really, really good investment for that first period of time, where you can maybe just snag 30 or 40 minutes as a power nap during the middle of the day, and that banks you a little bit more sleep for overnight.
They say that a 20-minute power nap during the day, if you are feeling tired, as long as it's not too late, can do wonders. But I think if it goes over 30 minutes, because it takes about 35, 40 minutes, don't quote me on this, but that sort of time to get into like the deeper sleep. So they say sort of keep it around that 20, 30 minutes. But yeah, you can have a power nap and plow on pretty okay.
That's funny, because generally, if you're on a holiday or something like that and you drift off for an afternoon nap, I always wake up more cranky and tighter if I go over that half an hour, which makes sense, I guess, after what you just said.
Yeah, 30 minutes is the magic number. I've actually got a sleep story which goes for 28 minutes, I think it is, and they say that's like pretty much the perfect number for a nap. You may not actually fall asleep, but even just having that rest and switching off for 28 minutes during the middle of the day, and I still do it every now and again. Like if I've had a couple of really early starts, or I've top and tailed a trip to Sydney up and back in a day, the next day I'll still do that during the middle of the day just to bank a little bit more sleep and refresh your mind so you can tackle the afternoon.
I was going to ask you guys if you used any sleep aids, like any like white noise apps, or obviously, Kane, you've got this story that they shout out at the 28th minute mark, wake up.
No, but I think birds chirp like it's 4:45 a.m. in Brisbane.
You don't want to be hearing that.
But no, it is. It's a fairly light sort of wake up, and I genuinely haven't slept through it. So it is just 28 minutes. You hear the birds sort of chirping. Okay, it's time to get back up and go.
I know my brother uses. He's got an app on his phone that has the sound of rain falling on tin. I think he uses to put himself to sleep. And he takes that everywhere he goes. Even when we go down to mum and dad's down in Melbourne, they live on acreage, so there's no cars or traffic or whatever, and it's absolutely pitch black. So anybody could fall asleep there. He still needs to use this app. So, and I'm thinking maybe he's become reliant on it, and they're having a baby in January, so it's going to get interesting for him.
Yeah, I know my mum uses a similar thing, but for the sound of the ocean. I mean, because we live in basically CBD Melbourne, thankfully, like we've got good windows, so we don't really hear cars, but I don't do well with light. So I do have a sleep mask if I need it, but then when we first moved into our place, I was using it quite a bit, especially during summer. And then we went and got like these roller blinds and replaced the current blinds there. And that just makes the room pitch black. And that really helps. But yeah, like if I do travel, in my traveling suitcase, I have a sleep mask because generally hotel rooms don't go pitch black. So I'll use that. But apart from that, I don't really use anything to help go to sleep at the moment.
Is it a particular type of sleep mask? Are you picky with it, or could you at Crown this evening and they provide one? If they provide one, would you be okay with that, or is there a particular one which you have, which you like?
I literally just pinched the one from when I was lucky enough to fly business on Qantas, and I've never let that go. So a little bit like the pajamas that they gave me, I've never really let them go either. But yeah, no. So I just use that one. So I'm not picky with it at all. It just anything that blocks the light out is pretty good.
Both of you guys travel a lot. Do you have any tips or anything for sleeping on planes or anything like that?
I'm not great sleeping on planes, so I kind of more use actually the power nap strategy on planes as opposed to trying to get a decent sleep, because I just know that I'll probably end up with a pretty shit one if I try and get a decent one. So, and sort of, wherever you can, try and fly in beforehand or time adjust or just little things like that. Trying not to drink too much is another one, because as much as some people one drink or can sort of help calm the nerves and let you sleep, anything sort of more than that, it really actually does stimulate you, so you don't get into a deep REM sleep with the alcohol. But I guess succumb to the fact that I'm a pretty shit sleeper on planes, so navigate around it elseways.
Yeah, I can't sleep on planes, and I struggle to sleep in hotels. So I'm probably a very poor traveller for work. But luckily, most of the time, I'm by myself, to be honest. So I'm not bothering anyone else, except for maybe people at the conference the next day. So no, I have no real tips around that outside of what Ryan has mentioned, which is what you should do. But unfortunately, none of them ever work for me. Now, gents, we're going to have to wrap up soon. Do either of you snore?
I do sometimes, yeah. If I've had a few drinks or if I lay on my back, I generally do snore a little bit. I haven't been recorded and I haven't heard it, but I've been told I do. So
yeah, I'm the same. It's alleged that I snore, but I'm skeptical. Where I'm sure I'm awake. I've copped the people's elbow in my ribs, just under the rib cage. Are you snoring?
No, I'm lucky. I am not. However, my brother snores very loudly to the point of when he's moved to Canada now, but in Perth, you could actually genuinely hear him from a room or two away, especially if he'd had a few drinks. So I think I had a 50-50 shot, and I thankfully lucked out with the genes there.
I thought you were going to say there he moved to Canada, you could still hear him snoring. I thought, well, that's impressive.
No, but he's actually loud enough that I wouldn't put it past it.
Well, that about wraps it up for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week for another episode, or should I say serving, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye bye. Bye bye.